listening to Crystal Clear Lore, a Wormsong production. (1427), the village Eisenschatten, Switzerland. It was the night of the second full moon after Easter, when the mountain passes were still choked with snow and the wolves howled closer than any God-fearing soul liked. In the village of Eisenschatten, the unwed maidens gathered before the ancient stone cross in the frozen square. This year, there were only two. Their mothers clutched them with white-knuckled hands, rosaries wound tight between trembling fingers. Fathers stood grim and silent, eyes fixed on the ground as though they could not bear to look upon their daughters. Everyone knew the old law. Only one would walk back down the path tonight. Liesl Mueller and Anna Schreck stood shoulder to shoulder, breath steaming in the bitter cold. Their fingers laced together, icy and slick with fear. The village elder, a bent crone whose face was as cracked as the glaciers above, held out two long straws in her gnarled fist. One was plain, the other was painted with gold that glinted cruelly in the torchlight. The girls reached out with eyes squeezed shut. Liesl felt the rough straw slide between her fingers. Beside her, Anna let out a small, broken sound. Half sob, half prayer of thanks. When Liesl opened her eyes, the golden straw lay across her palm like a death sentence. A heavy silence fell over the square. Someone began to weep. Liesl's mother made a low, animalistic sound and nearly collapsed, but strong hands held her back. The girl stood frozen, staring at the glittering straw as though it were already stained with her blood. This year, it was her turn. Her turn to climb the icebound path into the black jaws of the hollow peak. Her turn to meet the Cholen Wyrm. She glanced back at her parents just once, committing their faces to memory as though they were already fading, like the first snow melting under an unforgiving spring sun. The elder's bony fingers closed around her arm, guiding her away from the square and toward the little stone church. Inside, the air would be thick with incense and candle smoke, the priest waiting to shrive her sins and bless the iron knife that she would carry into the mountain. No one spoke as they walked. The only sounds were the crunch of snow underfoot. It was as if the mountains themselves were holding their breath in anticipation. Inside the church, the air hung thick with the incense and the smoke of tallow candles. The priest, Father Anselm, waited at the altar in his threadbare vestments, his face as pale and lined as the glaciers that fed the valley. He did not meet Liesl's eyes at first. No one ever did, on this night. "Kneel, child," he murmured, his voice hoarse from years of whispering prayers against the mountain's devils. Liesl obeyed, her knees meeting the icy flagstones. The elder released her arm at last and retreated to the shadows near the door, leaving her alone with the old man and the crucifix that loomed above them. Christ's carved face twisted in eternal agony, as if he too had once stared into the hollow peak and looked away. Father Anselm placed a trembling hand upon her head. "Confess your sins, Liesl Mueller, that your soul may enter the mountain clean. The Cholen Wyrm devours more than flesh. It hungers for the unclean heart." She spoke the familiar words, small disobediences, fleeting angers, the secret Latin books she had read by rushlight, but they felt hollow tonight. As she finished, the priest leaned in closer, his breath sour with wine and dread. "Listen well, girl. Do not look the beast in the eye. Do not speak your true name aloud within its halls. And whatever voices you hear upon the wind, do not answer. They wear the faces of those already lost. Your grandmother's lullaby, your brother's laugh from before the fever took him. They are not gifts. They are lies." He pressed a small iron knife into her hands, the same blade that had been passed down through 7 cycles, its edge notched and blackened. "This may cut through scales, if God wills it. But remember, the mountain does not forget, and neither does the beast." As he traced the sign of the cross upon her forehead with holy oil that smelled of myrrh and mountain herbs, Liesl felt a faint whisper brush the back of her neck. like ice-cold breath from a mouth that should not have been there. For the briefest moment, she thought she heard her father's voice, soft and loving, calling her name from somewhere far above the rafters. She squeezed her eyes shut tighter. When the blessing ended, the elder returned and draped a simple white woolen cloak over Lysel's shoulders, the shroud of the chosen. No food would be given to her, no farewell beyond the silent walk to the edge of the village at first light. The pact demanded purity of body and emptiness of belly. The beast preferred its offerings unspoiled by earthly comforts. As they stepped back into the freezing night, Lysel risked one final glance toward her family's hut. Her mother stood in the doorway, clutching a rosary so tightly the beads must have bitten into her palms. Their eyes met across the snow. In an instant, Lysel tried desperately to memorize every line of her mother's face. The weary eyes, the frost-kissed hair, the mouth that had once sung her to sleep. She wondered, with a chill that had nothing to do with the wind, whether she would still remember it when the mountain was done with her. Dawn came gray and merciless, the sky the color of old pewter. The villagers walked Lysel to the edge of Eisenschatten in total silence, their torches long since extinguished. No one embraced her. No one offered final words. They simply stopped at the ancient marker stone carved with a crude dragon and a cross, and let her step alone onto the narrow path that wound upward into the Alps. The snow was knee-deep in places, crusting hard over hidden ice. Each step sent sharp cracks echoing off the cliffs above, as if the mountain itself were marking her progress. The air burned in her lungs, thin and bitter with the scent of pine and frozen stone. Behind her, the village shrank quickly, swallowed by the white vastness until only the tiny steeple of the church remained visible, like a last, lonely plea to heaven. She had been climbing for perhaps 2 hours when the wind began to change. At first it was only a low moan threading between the jagged peaks. But then the sound thickened, layered, almost shaped. Whispers rode the gusts, faint but growing clearer with every labored breath she took.
Lysel!
She froze mid-step, the iron knife heavy against her hip. The voice was young and trembling, a girl's voice. It was Clara, the sacrifice from last year. Sweet, laughing Clara who had loved to braid wildflowers into the other girl's hair.
Come higher, Lysel. The path is easier up here. The snow is softer.
Lysel's heart slammed against her ribs. She clutched the white woolen shroud tighter around her shoulders and forced herself onward, eyes fixed on the next switchback. "Do not answer," Father Anselm had warned. "They are hooks." But the mountain answered for her. Another voice joined the first, this one lower, steadier. Verena, the strong shepherd girl taken 2 years ago, whose shoulders had once carried 2 lambs at once.
You're doing well, little sister. Keep to the left where the ice is thinner. Remember how I showed you the safe footing last summer?
The wind swirled snow into ghostly shapes ahead of her. Tall, slender forms that moved just out of rhythm with the gusts. Not quite human, but close enough. One lifted what might have been an arm, beckoning. A third voice now, bright and childish, bubbling with the innocent joy that had made little Greta everyone's favorite before the choosing 3 years passed.
Lysel, I saved you a place by the warm stones. It doesn't hurt after the first bit. The Cholen Wyrm sing such pretty songs once you listen.
Lysel's breath came in ragged gasps. The voices were perfect. Every cadence, every familiar lilt burned into her memory from years of village life. Clara's gentle teasing, Verena's calm confidence, Greta's endless giggles. They sounded so close she could almost feel their breath on her neck, warm despite the killing cold. She risked a glance sideways. There, just beyond the edge of the path, where the slope dropped away into a sheer crevasse, 3 shadows stood against the snow, tall and thin, outlined in faint blue-white light that pulsed like a dying heartbeat. They wore the shapes of the missing sacrifices exactly. Clara's long braid, Verena's broad shoulders, Greta's small stature and bouncing curls. But their faces were wrong. Too smooth, too still, like masks carved from the fresh ice, with dark hollows where the eyes should have been. The shadows did not walk. They simply were there when she looked, and gone when she blinked, only to reappear a few paces farther up the trail, always beckoning.
Lysel, why do you fight it?
Clara's voice sighed, now laced with something ancient and patient.
We were afraid too at first, but forgetting is a mercy. You'll see. Soon you won't even miss them. Your mother's face, your father's calloused hands, the taste of cheese warm from the press. All of it slips away so gently.
Lysel pressed her mittened hands over her ears, but the voices slid straight through flesh and bone, as intimate as thoughts.
Come, sister,
Verena urged, her shadow now only 10 paces ahead.
the cave is warm inside. The gold shines like sunlight on the lake. And the worm knows your true name better than you ever will.
Greta's childish laughter rang out, bright and terrible.
It already has pieces of you, Lysel. Can't you feel them missing?
A sudden gust slammed into her, nearly knocking her from the path. When the swirling snow settled, the three shadows stood together directly in front of her, blocking the trail. Their ice-masked faces had begun to crack, revealing glimpses of something darker and far older writhing beneath. Scales, perhaps, or too many blinking eyes. Lysel's fingers were closed around the iron knife. Her legs trembled, but she did not scream. She did not answer. Instead, she whispered the only defense she could remember from the forbidden page in her family's chronicle, a broken scrap of Latin mixed with old mountain charms.
In nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti, get thee behind me, thou thing of forgetting.
The shadows rippled. For one heartbeat, she thought she saw real pain flicker across Clara's stolen face. Or perhaps it was only the wind tearing at the snow. Then the voices faded back into the moan of the mountain, leaving only the crunch of her own boots and the thunder of her pulse. But the climb had grown steeper now, and the path narrower. The whispers returned weaker, but never fully gone. Always just behind her shoulder, calling her name in voices that grew colder and more eager the higher she climbed. Hours blurred. Her legs burned. Her mind felt scraped raw. The peaks loomed closer, black and jagged against the pale sky, until at last the trail ended at a wide, snow-covered ledge. There, carved into the sheer face of the hollow peak, yawned the mouth of the cave. It was larger than she had imagined, a jagged black wound in the mountain's side, framed by icicles like broken teeth. No wind blew here. The air hung perfectly still and heavy, carrying the faint, metallic scent of old blood and something sweeter, like incense left too long on a forgotten altar. Torchlight from the village far below could no longer reach this height. The only illumination came from within the cavern itself, a faint, sickly glow that pulsed like a slow heartbeat, reflecting off veins of quartz and hoarded gold deep inside. At the threshold stood the ancient sacrificial post, weathered oak bound with rusted iron, stained dark from generations of offerings. A few tattered scraps of white cloth still clung to it, fluttering faintly though there was no breeze. Lysel stopped, chest heaving. The iron knife gripped so tightly her knuckles had gone bloodless. The shadows were gone. But from the darkness beyond the post, something vast and patient exhaled. A single low breath that stirred the fine hairs on her neck and carried with it the faintest echo of 1,000 stolen voices, all whispering her name at once. She had reached the cave of Cholen Wyrm. Lysel stopped at the entrance, chest heaving. For a long moment she stood, frozen in place. Then, because there was nowhere else to go, Lysel stepped past the post and into the cavern. The air inside was warm, unnaturally warm, like the breath of a great animal. The sickly glow brightened as she walked deeper, revealing walls encrusted with gold coins, jeweled chalices, and rusted armor from centuries past. But the true horror lay deeper still. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. There, coiled upon a mountain of treasure and bone, waited the Cholen Wyrm. But it was not one, it was many. Thousands of half-dissolved human shapes had been fused into a single colossal, writhing mass of scale, translucent flesh, and pulsing vein. Faces pressed outward from the living cathedral of stolen souls, some still blinking, some mouthing silent prayers in languages long dead. Clara, Verena, and Greta were there, their bodies half melted into the greater whole, yet their heads remained intact, turning slowly to watch her with eyes that were no longer quite their own. Their mouths moved in perfect unison with the greater voice that now filled the chamber. "Welcome, Liesel Mueller," the beast said, its tone gentle, almost loving. "We've been waiting." Liesel tried to raise the iron knife, but her arm felt heavy, as though the mountain itself pressed down upon it. The voices of the 3 sacrifices rose sweetly around her.
You don't need that anymore,
Clara whispered from inside the mass.
It only hurts for a little while.
Verena added.
Then the forgetting comes.
Greta finished, giggling.
And everything is warm and safe.
The dragon's central heart, a vast, beating core wearing the face of the very first sacrifice from centuries ago, leaned closer. Its breath smelled of myrrh, old blood, and melting snow. When it spoke again, the voice was soft, intimate, like a mother singing a lullaby. "Give me your name, child. Give me your memories. Give me your fear. In return, you will never be cold again. You will never be alone." Liesel felt the first tug, a gentle pulling behind her eyes, as though invisible fingers were unraveling threads from her mind. She saw her mother's face flicker and blur at the edges. Her father's calloused hands began to fade. The taste of warm mountain cheese, the sound of church bells on Easter morning, the Latin words from the Forbidden Chronicle, all of them loosened, drifting away like snowflakes in the wind. She tried to whisper the Latin charm once more, but the words would not come. They were already forgotten. One by one, the faces within the beast smiled at her with genuine tenderness.
"You're home now,"
they said together. Liesel's knees buckled. The iron knife slipped from her fingers and clattered onto the hoard of gold. She did not pick it up. The last thing she felt was a vast, ancient relief as the final pieces of Liesel Mueller dissolved into the living cathedral. Her name, her fears, her loves, all of them folded neatly into the greater whole. When the dragon exhaled again, a new voice joined the chorus. Soft, obedient, content.
"I am here.
The new part of the worm whispered.
I serve."
The next year. On the night of the second full moon after Easter, the villagers of Eisenschatten gathered once more before the ancient stone cross in the frozen square. This year there were 3 unwed maidens. Their mothers clutched them with white-knuckled hands, rosaries wound tight between trembling fingers. The village elder, a bit older now, a bit more bent, held out the straws. 2 plain, one painted with gold that glinted cruelly in the torchlight. The chosen girl pulled the golden straw and began to weep. As the elder led the sacrifice toward the little stone church for confession and blessing, something caught the priest's eye on the church stoop. There, neatly folded upon the icy stone step, lay a white woolen cloak, the shroud of the chosen, stained with old blood and cave dust. Beside it rested an iron knife, its edge still notched and blackened, exactly as it had been last year. No one had carried those items back down the mountain. Father Anselm crossed himself with a shaking hand. The cloak and the knife had returned on their own, as they always did when the cycle began again. High above, on the hollow peak, the wind moaned softly through the cavern mouth. If anyone had listened closely, they might have heard many voices joined as one, gentle, patient, and endlessly hungry. whispering the name of the newest offering. The Cholen Wyrm was waiting, and it was never truly alone.
Welcome back to Crystal Clear Lore. I'm Crystal Lance, and this week's sacrifice is still Brady, my producer.
Yeah, I'm like stuck in a wall of goo and other faces now. I didn't really like that.
Well, I needed to up the ante a little bit, week by week.
And she did. Good job, Crystal.
Oh, thank you. It's nightmare fuel.
Crystal clear horror is what it should be. But we're going to lay on some facts, and that's why it's the lore.
Exactly. So we are talking about dragons, and we're talking specifically about European dragons this week. But because dragons are vast and they show up in every civilization, we're going to have to break them completely down into 12 different episodes.
Yep, it's going to be a long series, so strap in on this one. See, I didn't know dragons were so vast of a subject. I just, you think of just like a little flying dude with the fire and the cool wings and all that. Nope. And maybe, like the guy from Mulan, the little back-talking little guy.
See, that's an Eastern dragon. That's an Asian dragon.
Yeah, and I was like, maybe it's only those two.
And his name is Mushu.
So I thought we could do a mini-series. It might be maybe 2 or 3 episodes. No. And she has been very upset for me having this idea.
It's the last time I ever listened to you. Though I am able to kind of combine some of them that are similar. So we're going to be doing European dragons, Asian dragons, hydras, worms slash serpents.
As in Worm Song Media.
Yeah. Drakes and wyverns. So there won't be 12 episodes total. There'll be like 6, but it's going to be a while. So if you're sitting here wondering, well, why didn't Crystal include this dragon? It's probably not a European dragon, and they'll probably pop up in a later episode. It took me a very long time to do this episode and sort out all the different types.
As it would, because it's 12 of them.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're not.
And it's not even like 12 Days of Christmas. It's just a bunch of dragons.
Well, it could be 12 Days of Dragons.
Well, I like dragons, so this is going to be awesome.
So European dragons obviously hail from Europe. These dragons are the ones with 4 legs, 2 wings sometimes, and 1 head, like the dragon on the Welsh flag.
Okay.
Any other combination is not a true dragon in the Western sense, but it's a different creature.
So not the one with 3 heads then.
That's a hydra.
Okay. That's what I thought.
If he has 2 legs, and then he has like the little bat wings like Drago does on Game of Thrones.
Okay.
That's a wyvern. That's not a dragon. Fight me.
Oh, this is going to be spicy.
It's going to be spicy.
This seems like a hot take filled one.
He's not a dragon. He's a wyvern. They all are. All the dragons in Game of Thrones are wyverns.
Okay, going to write to HBO?
I think it might be actually George R.R. Martin's fault.
It could probably be. Did he describe it that way in the book?
I don't remember. The book was way darker than the show was, which was kind of fascinating.
Yeah, that could probably be its own podcast, but
it could.
I never even saw the show, which is probably a controversial take now.
Yeah.
In 2026.
Meh.
But I have seen a bunch of the scenes with that. You said it was a wyvern?
Cool. Yeah, he's a wyvern.
Okay. And so I'll be referring to that now if I talk about the dragons on Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Well, cool. You'll learn something new.
The European dragons are a relatively new depiction of dragons. The earliest depiction that we can find in print or art or anything is from the MS Harley 3244, which is a medieval bestiary dating about 1260.
Okay. I've never heard of this. It sounds kind of cool.
I was really digging into it, and there's some really fun things on here.
Was it just people making stuff up, or was it LARPing? Were they having like an ancient D&D? Was that... Or was it like, did they have these were they scared of these things?
Some of them were dinosaur bones.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But then
that makes sense.
Some of this stuff is so lore-based that it kind of leaves a mystery up for a reason.
Well, let's Scooby-Doo it.
Okay, well, in the MS Harley, this depiction, the dragon has 4 legs, 6 wings, 3 for each pair of legs.
Whoa.
Horns, and is breathing fire.
That's kind of a crazy dragon.
After digging around for a while, I found a possible translation of the dragon entry on bestiary.ca that explains the true enemy of the dragon is the elephant.
The elephant,
Yeah,
huh?
the elephant.
Okay, let's dig into that a little bit.
And I quote, "The dragon is the enemy of the elephant and hides near paths where elephants walk so that it can catch them with its tail and kill them by suffocation."
No breathing?
No breathing.
Oh, boy.
It is because of the threat of the dragon that the elephants give birth in the water. Its tail was apparently thought to coil around the elephant like a serpent.
Oh my gosh, okay. I feel bad for the little elephants now. The big elephants for that matter, but relatively speaking. If they can do that, the dragons must be really big.
That's what I'm thinking. It also states that the dragon's venom is harmless, but it's so hot that it lights the air on fire. Now, this is one thing the Game of Thrones got absolutely right.
Hang on, venom?
The venom. It doesn't, the venom by itself doesn't do anything, right? But it's so hot that it ignites.
Holy cow.
As soon as it hits air.
That's crazy, okay.
Yeah, that's one thing.
Is that how so that's how they breathe the fire then? It's just shooting venom that ignites in the air?
Yeah.
It's like a really thin, or how viscous is it?
It's not very viscous. It's more like a chemical reaction. It's like hairspray.
So so it can get a good spray out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. However, apparently in this bestiary, dragons are only found in India and Ethiopia.
Yeah, that's not really
It's not right.
Not really right.
They are also afraid of a peridexian tree, which I had to look up. This tree is a mythological tree that grows in India and attracts doves, and it has been used as an allegory for Christian salvation.
Interesting. I'd never heard of it. What's it called again? What did you say it was?
Peridexian tree.
Peridexian tree.
Yeah.
Pair of what? That's kind of a cuss word. There's kids that listen to it.
There better not be kids that listen to my messed up stories.
Should be labeled not kids.
Not kids.
Get your kids out of here.
Not for the horror stories. They can listen to the facts.
Get your kids out of here.
Further points of interest in this bestiary entry for the dragons is that when dragons hide, they hide when panthers roar because they cannot stand the sweet smell of the panther's breath.
Didn't know panthers had a sweet breath.
I didn't either, so we're all learning stuff today.
Maybe they really liked the taste of meat and it just smells very sweet.
I can't imagine it.
So you go ahead and smell a panther's breath and you let me know what it's like. And if you live, you can tell we have a crazy episode to tell, to talk about.
Dragons can also make the air shine when they come out of their caves.
Oh.
So that's the other thing that I thought was really weird.
They fart glitter?
No. They don't fart. They just appear, and thus the air must be shiny around them.
Okay, cool.
Because they have that aura.
There's the word. Did you know that's a cat's name?
It is my cat's name. She's my baby. Back to dragons.
She may have a cameo at some point if she ever decides to meow in here.
She never will. At this point in history, the devil is really likened to the dragon because he's the worst of the serpents, right? Dragons are very lizardy.
Yeah, big reptiles, as you will.
Yeah.
You could almost say that technically they would fall under the classification of dinosaur if truly they were reptilian.
But dinosaurs aren't as reptilian as they're avian, we found out.
True, but the name itself, the namesake, what was it, vicious lizard? Dinosaur?
Yeah, vicious lizard or something.
Technically, they could fall under that classification just by name, in a way.
That's fair.
I am not a dinosaurologist.
That's called a paleontologist.
I'm not a geometrist, okay?
Oh
I can't be making these decisions.
Anything that's multisyllabic, you just mess up.
And you'll never know if I do it on purpose or if I am just stupid.
So the reason, according to the Christian theology of this time period, the reason dragons make the air shine is because the devil makes him appear as the angel of light to deceive the foolish.
You'd have to be pretty foolish because beyond the shiny light, or the shiny air, which is kind of cool, by the way, because I'm just trying to picture that in my mind. Is it just like kind of an illumination? Anyway, I digress. Is the dragon.
It's a dragon.
So you'd have to be damn foolish to be fooled by that.
Well, this is also like allegory type stuff.
Nice thing up there is shiny.
Well, this is like allegory type stuff.
Yeah, I know, but I just love it. I love thinking someone's that dumb.
The dragon's strength lies in their tails and coils around elephants to kill them. So the allegory is that the devil's strength comes from his lies that he uses to ensnare victims into sin.
Okay. Pause for a second though, because I didn't know that fact about the dragon's strength in its tail, right? So now all I can think about, because you kept saying coil, is them bouncing around like Tigger. And if you even know what Tigger is, if you're too young, I'm sorry. Look up Winnie the Pooh, because that might sound like a slur or something.
If you don't know what Tigger is, man, you need to go read a book.
Yeah, and the wonderful thing about Tigger...
I don't know. I didn't like Tigger.
Oh, I guess we're going to have to finish the phrase then.
I didn't like him.
The little jingle.
I liked Rabbit.
That's fair. Fair. You would.
Yeah, I don't know what this is about me.
Well, that's a nice trip down the 1,000-acre woods. And I don't know if we'll get sued for that.
100 acres.
Mentioning it. Oh, God, you're right.
You're not even close.
Holy moly. I wasn't a Winnie the Pooh fan either.
Sorry, guys.
I know a couple of the references from daycare.
To continue back to the bestiary, it goes on to talk about uses for dragon parts. Apparently, you can use the tongue, eyes, and gallbladder and intestine. You can boil them in a medicine to cure people of the fear of goblins, ghosts, and evil spirits.
Yeah, because they'll die of some kind of food poisoning.
That's kind of what I figured.
Holy moly, who was the chef on this one? Was it a doctor, a scientist? What was going on here? A chemist? Was it just the shaman that did this?
I don't know.
Who decided that was good to be? I'm baffled on this one. That doesn't sound good. Where'd they get these parts?
I don't know.
That's like the real question, first of all.
Apparently in the dragon's brain, there is a translucent white stone called a dragontite, which is only valuable if you cut it from the dragon's brain while it lives.
How? I mean, how many dragons did they kill to figure this out?
Look, we're gonna get there.
Maybe they found the dead ones and were able to do an autopsy.
Well, apparently
that would be a cool book.
You can also eat dragons, but the flesh is said to be cold, which makes sense. Lizard, and they do say don't eat the gallbladder.
Dragon sushi?
Yeah, no.
You want some drushi?
I'm good.
Some dragushi?
The only other dragon, like dragon, that really shows up in the Middle Ages is the dragon that I probably rant about the most. And that would be the dragon that St. George slays with Ascalon, which is a dragon slaying sword or lance.
It sounds like a cool one.
Ascalon, yeah, he's one of at least there's like 10 of them. Because, Ascalon's one, the other one I know of is the big famous one, Excalibur, is also a dragon slaying sword.
Oh, yeah. Is that like a sister sword?
Yes.
Or whatever? Are they female or swords male?
I don't know.
We have to do an episode on swords of folklore.
So St. George I have an issue with, and we'll see why we have an issue with. In Cyrene, Libya, a dragon resided in a lake and was terrorizing the town. It had already eaten all the sheep and was now eating children. Eventually, the king's daughter was to be sacrificed. She dressed as a bride and was delivered to where the dragon resided. George, who was a Roman soldier at the time, asked why she was weeping. She answered, she told him what was going on, and the dragon appeared. George instructed her to tie her belt around the dragon's neck and lead it back to the city. She did, and when they arrived, George said, "I will only kill this dragon if the entire town converts to Christianity."
Go figure.
I have an issue with George.
How convenient.
I have a lot of problems with St. George.
Yeah, we should actually at some point do like an episode about just you ranting about the saints that you keep ranting about and all the different popes and all the different stuff. I promise it's not just the Catholics that she has a problem with.
I only have a problem with St. George because if there is a dragon and it's terrorizing the town, it's eating kids, and you're like, oh, wow, we're going to let all these kids die because you're not Christian. I have a problem with that.
It's just the only thing is that they just keep coming up, and so she gets triggered. So that's just part of the show.
Bothers me though. Why? I also know this is the Middle Ages. It's right in the height of the Crusades, and so I get it. But also, dude, that was a really scummy thing to do. Those
were just crazy times for humanity.
Well, I mean, of course, the town agreed, so of course he killed the dragon. And according to a lot of lore, that was the last dragon.
That's what I've heard before, I think.
Yeah, it was the last one, and George killed it.
Is there any pieces of it?
I also have problems with this.
Is there any jerky left?
It's just issues.
Well, they couldn't have been the last dragon. How many did they kill? How many were there originally?
Oh, nobody knows.
Is there speculation?
Probably hundreds. If we talk about East European dragons, right?
They slaughtered them all, huh?
Yeah, it's a problem.
That's a bummer. I don't know what the heck.
But since we are in this time period, dragons do also tie into the Arthurian lore in Britain, right, King Arthur? So the red dragon is the symbol of Wales and has been on their flag since 1959. Although no one really knows how old this symbol is, the oldest recording of it dates back to the 9th century.
BC?
No.
I don't know, it just always rolls off the tongue when you say BC
era.
After it. Yeah.
The Arthurian legend, however, is from Geoffrey of Monmouth's 12th century work, Historiam Regum Britanniae. This story focuses on a Celtic king who was looking to build a castle. He found a spot he really liked, but the foundations kept falling apart. A young boy, believed to be Merlin himself, told the king that the reason it kept falling is it was on top of an underground lake that had 2 sleeping dragons beneath it. The king dug into the ground and found the lake. His digging woke the dragons, however, and they proceeded to do an epic battle.
Nice.
Yeah, epic dragon battle.
Every tale needs an epic dragon battle.
This is true. So one dragon was white and the other was red. Although the white dragon held the upper hand for most of the battle, in the end, the red dragon was victorious. Merlin later told the king that the red dragon represented his people, the native Britons, and the white dragon represented the invading Saxons, later the Anglo-Saxons.
Okay.
So the reason that kind of ties into Arthur is because in Arthur's not dead. He's asleep until the time that Britain needs him to drive out all the Saxons.
Oh, okay. So he's just kind of
He's in a
waiting
coma.
there.
We'll have to talk about King Arthur because he is a fascinating figure. Well, and I wanted to bring up King Arthur because his last name is Pendragon.
Yeah, King Arthur. Pretty famous story.
It is. Yeah, I want to dig into him one day. He's a cool guy. I like King Arthur.
Just a cool guy, huh?
He's a cool guy. I don't like his wife.
It's like one of the most famous of stories at all.
He's cool.
Cool guy.
He's a cool guy, man.
He's a cool guy.
His wife
Maybe we can have a beer.
His wife has problems. But he's a cool guy.
He would have enjoyed an ale, as they called it. When did they start calling it beer? We won't get into that.
That's a whole thing.
Intrusive questions.
After the Arthurian legend, this is kind of where dragons start to shift away from just being like evil creatures into something more. They really become like literary elements that could be multifaceted. In 1898, Kenneth Graham wrote The Reluctant Dragon, which features a gentle, poetry-loving dragon. A boy meets this dragon, and with St. George, they conspire to stage a mock battle that has the dragon quote-unquote lose, and then fulfills the premise of the St. George legend.
Has the dragon lose? Like a rigged fight?
Kinda, yeah.
Oh, well, that's kind of messed up.
St. George.
They do what they do.
So I'm going to briefly mention a Norse dragon named Fafnir.
Fafnir?
Fafnir.
They're always near.
It's Norse,
Never
and he's
far.
Okay, you said you played, oh my gosh.
God of War.
Thank you. I want to say Game of Thrones. I'm all confused right now.
When we brought up Fenrir.
Yeah, so Fafnir is like, you remember the two dwarf brothers in God of War that's the Smiths?
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember their names off the top
They're
of my head.
from Nilfenheim, I think.
Yeah. What were their names?
I don't remember. But anyway.
They're like important to all of the canon of all of that, and we're just like,
well, but it's more important that the race, right? So the race of dwarves. So Fafnir was this greedy dwarf, right? He was very focused on like the accumulation of treasure, and he gets turned into a dragon.
Oh, I see where this might be going.
So yeah, that part of Fafnir, I can't believe my notes must have not saved it, and that's very frustrating. But that part of the dragon lore comes from Fafnir.
That makes a lot of sense now. Okay, with all of the hoarding of the treasure and all of that.
Right.
Okay.
So we had The Reluctant Dragon in 1898, and then, this is crazy, how many years after 1898 do you think The Hobbit came out?
1?
No, 40.
Oh.
I was thinking you're going to be like, oh, it's like really modern, 100 years. No, you're just like 1.
I don't know when The Hobbit came out.
The Hobbit
sounds like it's old.
Published in 1937.
Okay. Well, what's the significance of the 40 years thing?
I don't know. It was just a cool little factoid that I found. I was like, man, only 40 years? That's crazy.
That is kind of crazy, actually. What do you know? What if there would have been dragons?
Well, Smaug from The Hobbit really leans into like all the dragon tropes, right? He's evil. He's greedy. He's scary. He's scary.
He's pretty scary.
But he's also really intelligent and wise. I love Smaug. He's a fantastic character.
Yeah, I really loved the way they did that in the Hobbit movies. I never read the books because obviously I'm uncultured.
Yeah, we're fixing that.
But, movies are cool.
So yeah, Tolkien is hailed as the grandfather of fantasy, so it's not too surprising that like a lot of the things we think of European dragon stereotypes, they're found in Smaug. So although greed and treasure can be traced back to Fafnir, and then other dragons not mentioned here because they're not true dragons, they're dragonoids, are roots for the intelligence, like Smaug just really brings it together in a way that I haven't seen in earlier work. Nothing earlier, just like, oh yeah, he's really smart, and he's greedy, and he wants this, and he breathes fire, and he's just like this really cool dragon.
So before Smaug, all of those tropes were kind of granular?
Yeah, I would say so. Like, you don't see something, you'll see like, oh, Fafnir was greedy, so he got turned into a dragon. There's Eustace from the Chronicles of Narnia. He was greedy, he gets turned into a dragon.
Yeah.
But that dragon is not also highly intelligent, just greedy.
Okay.
There's not something that just brings it all together the way Smaug does. At least if I've missed a source on it, it's not a memorable source. And I do mean a true dragon. 4 legs, wings, 1 head. Not a hydra, not a wyvern. True dragon. It's just, Smaug is so well written.
Okay, so Smaug's your favorite Western dragon or European dragon?
He's not.
Oh, well, who is then?
Well, does it technically count? Romanian's European, right? Yeah.
I'm not a geometrist, as I said.
I would say yes. I think they are still part of the EU.
As you can tell, we cannot just pull up Google Maps, apparently, here in the Crystal Clear Lore studio.
It's forbidden.
We got too many tabs open anyway.
So my favorite stuff comes from Romania because I do love Dracula, and Dracula Daily starts soon, and I'm very excited. Dracula Daily will have started by the time this comes out, and I will be rereading Dracula for like the 7th year in a row.
I don't remember if you brought up Dracula Daily or not. I kind of vaguely remember maybe we did, but if you don't know what it is.
Google it. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's like since the format of was it a novel technically?
Yeah, technically it's a novel.
I don't know how you classify that because it's kind of like a compilation of letters, right?
Journal entries and letters.
Letters, yeah. And so kind of in chronological order on the dates, those were supposedly sent or received, I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
You get like an email of that part, that chronicle, I guess.
Yep. It starts in May and ends in November. The whole book takes place over like 6 months. It's insane.
And it's kind of cool that it plays out like over the year or over the span of time as in chronological order like that. It's a really cool span.
Yeah.
Really unique. I've never seen anything done like that.
But I grew up loving vampire movies and I grew up loving Dracula, right? Well, Dracula does not mean son of the devil. The thing was, everybody thought that because dragons were associated with the devil over in Europe, like I would say more like Austrian, Hungary, Europe, what we think of like Europe, Germany, France, all that. The more Slavic region where Romania's at, Dracula means son of the dragon.
That's their OG word for it.
Yep. So because it's the Order of the Dragon. So that's always kind of my favorite stuff. The Romanian dragon I really love is the Zimu. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. It's Zmeu. It's a very cool dragon. It's an anthropomorphic dragon. And he's cool and he's kind of scary.
I remember, man, does it feel like forever ago, but I think it might have only just been like a year or two ago, but you were telling me about the Zimu. And this was when like the AI chatbot thingies first came out. And so we were like, you know what? Let's ask it about the Zimu. And it was struggling back then. We should do another sesh with it soon.
There's not a lot on the Zimu just because Romania is one of those countries that didn't write a lot of stuff down.
Yeah, I think no matter what, you're going to struggle to find any information on the Zimu. But it was a cool, Google it. I implore you to Google it because it was an interesting tale.
He's cool. He's an interesting little guy.
Look at a cool couple little pictures they had someone drawn of it.
But if I keep talking about the dragons that I love, we're going to be here all night.
She is a dragon lover.
I do love dragons.
It's a very awesome, I want to say animal. Creature, yeah. But technically animal.
Yeah, because lizards are animals.
Maybe, possibly. Extinct animal. Possibly not even. Maybe lives in Hollow Earth. I don't know. It's just my conspiracy voice.
So to summarize this up, there's a lot to dragons, and I haven't even scratched the surface because if I did do a really deep dive on the European dragons, I'd be here all night. I will possibly do deep dives on specific dragons, here and there, but I got to do really surface level stuff here.
I mean, yeah, deep dives would be hour-long episodes.
Yeah. The European dragon, which is 4 legs, 2 wings, normally 1 head, that's the big one, is a relatively younger version of the dragon. The greed and treasure tropes come from Fafnir in Nordic legend, but they aren't shown as just evil and cruel. They are also wise, intelligent, and sometimes peaceful and sometimes protective. So one thing I've learned from delving into this is just like people, some dragons are good, some dragons are bad, and most just fall somewhere in between. So I hope as much as I can, without boring you all to death, I have made European dragons crystal clear. Bye.
Bye.
Follow us on Threads and Insta at Wyrmsong Media. That's WYRMSONG Media. Want to reach out to us? Email us at wyrmsongmedia@gmail. Again, that's WYRMSONGMEDIA@gmail.